Where's the... Here you go.
Good morning. So I just wanted to share a little bit, a few thoughts that I think might be relevant from the parasha for us. So let's go back to Vaera. And Hashem is promising to take us out, and he's very detailed. He doesn't just say, I'm going to redeem you. He goes into detail. So he says, V'hotzeti etchem mitachat tzivlot Mitzrayim. 1, I will take you out from the suffering. So that's the most extreme. In other words, there's living in Egypt, there is working there, being slaves, and then there's the hardship that they were so cruel. So v'hotzeti etchem mitachat tzivlot Mitzrayim means I'll take you out from those hardships. 1. V'itzalti etchem avodatam. I will take you out, I'll save you from working for them. You'll work for yourself, you're not going to have to work for them. So those are two things HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking us out from. Now, I'm going to skip one. Then it says, V'lakachti etchem li la'am. I'll take you as a nation for me. That's Matan Torah. V'heveti etchem el ha'aretz. Asher nasati et yadi latet ota l'Avram, and so on. And I'll bring it to Eretz Yisrael. So, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'll take you away from the suffering, from the slavery. I will bring you to Har Sinai and to Eretz Yisrael. So that language makes a lot of sense. We're going out from one place, we're coming to another place. In the middle, I skipped one. It says, V'ga'alti etchem bezroa netuya v'shvatim gdolim. I will bring Geula to you. It doesn't say from where, it doesn't say to where. So when I say I'm taking you, so either you tell me where you take me from, or where you're going to. What's that middle term, v'ga'alti? So, and that's the word ge'ula. Ge'ula is that middle term, and it doesn't say what. It just says Hashem will do it b'yad chazaka v'zroa netuya, but it's not telling me where I'm going from, not where to. So what kind of ge'ula is it? What are we referring to exactly over here? And these 5 terms are very specific. There's a reason. We drink the kosot, 4 kosot, and kos Eliyahu for the 5th one. So what is this all about? So I want to share a thought. The basis for this, the main thought is the Maharal Miprag is the one who brings this point out where I'm going to speak, and I want to apply it. In Parashat Va'etchanan, Moshe Rabbeinu is going over everything that happened to the Jewish people. And he says, did any God ever take people out as dramatically as they took you out, and so on and so forth? So it says, now one of the things is where he says, Shalna Yamim Rishonim was every nation, Hashama Am Kol Elokim Medaber Mitoch Ha'esh. Did anyone hear a voice of God come from the fire? Or Hanisa Elokim Lavo Lakachat Lo Goy Mikerav Goy B'masot Botot Moftim Milchama. Did Hashem ever take a nation out of another nation with such tremendous miracles and so on? It's a little bit of a strange language. Goy Mikerav Goy, take a nation out from another nation with such dramatic nisim and niflaot. I should say Hashem took you with dramatic nisim and niflaot and so on. What's goy mikerav goy? So the Midrash in Tehillim says it was very difficult. One, and it gives 2 mishalim. One is a goldsmith when he is taking pieces of rock, putting it into the oven, melting out the gold and pulling it out. That's very hard. And that's a good mashal. It needs tremendous heat. You have to crush the stone. You have to be able to take out the gold that's melting. It's not easy. The second one is, and seems to be a more stronger mashal, ki ro'eh hashomet obar min hapara. Like a shepherd who's helping a cow give birth, and he pulls out the fetus, the baby, the calf, from the cow. Now, is that so difficult? It's quite normal. I mean, cows giving birth, they do it all the time. It's nice if you help them along a bit, but they always give birth. Like, the first mashal is to make gold. So today everything is commercial, but imagine if you had no tools, you had to take rocks and break them. That's heavy. But what's so bad? What's so difficult? And this is a mashal. Hashem says, did you ever see such a miracle? I came and took you a goy mikar of goy, like a shepherd taking out the calf from the cow. So what is it the Midrash is trying to tell us over here? So the Maharal says the following thought. The truth was, there were two problems in going out of Mitzrayim. The Mitzrayim held us really strong. And that's why he needed so many miracles and a lot to crush them. There was another problem. We had already been acclimated in Egypt. We became quite assimilated. Not totally, but we felt at home, very, very at home in Egypt. We consider ourselves part of that nation. We didn't see ourselves as different. So just like an American, when he travels to France, he's still an American. He doesn't see himself as being a Frenchman. So we were Egyptians. And as hard and as cruel and as bad as it was, we still were there. You're not familiar with that world, but I grew up European. My parents were Holocaust survivors. And we had friends, they had friends who were German Jews who had to run. They still had a trauma that they can't be German. They were very German. And it was very hard to get themselves out of that. So there was a second, so we could technically we could remove the Jewish people from Mitzrayim, but they themselves would not feel distinct. They would still be Egyptians. And then you can't create a Jewish people when you feel that you're part of that. That's the mashal, the brilliant mashal that Chazal are giving. When a calf is being born, it requires a lot of pressure, any child being born, because the child, so to speak, sees itself as part of the mother. It has to, the mother has to push it out. It's like psychologically, obviously it's not affecting the child per se, but conceptually, for a child to begin to see themselves as their own person, as their independent person, even growing up, it's a process because it's natural, it was part of this, and now it realizes something else. Down deep, we wanted to live in Egypt, just have an easier life. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu was taking us out, it's a long process because more than breaking the Egyptians, we have to wean off. There's an old joke they tell I don't know if people are familiar today, again, things change a lot. They have Boy Scouts. And in my days, they still were kind of had like good values. And one of the things was you had to, like, sometimes you had to do good deeds and talk about it. So there was once a group of 50 kids in a scout troop, and the head of the troop said, well, I assigned you last week to do a good deed. Tom, what did you do? So he said he helped an old lady cross the street and on this day. So that's very, very nice of you. And Jack, what did you do? I helped him also help across the street. All 50 helped across the street. So he said, that's wonderful, but why do I need 50 kids to help across the street? Because she didn't want to cross the street. So, the idea is that real Geula is getting the person to realize he's different, he's independent, and wants to be himself. So let's go back to what we were speaking about. 5 stages. So the first 2 are about breaking the Egyptians, and so that they loosen their stranglehold on us. They're strangling us. So we have the V'tzeti etchem mitachat tzivot Mitzrayim, v'tzalti etchem avodatam. And then we have afterwards bringing them to Israel. But there's a critical stage in the middle, and that is having them realize that we are Geulim. we become ourselves. We weren't ourselves because we're so enmeshed and so involved. And therefore, it's not from where, it's not to where. It's you yourself. Because of realizing what's happened here, you realize that you're different. You're not the same. I had this feeling, Baruch Hashem, I grew up, my parents were Holocaust survivors. Whatever they came from, Lithuania and Poland, they never, ever, ever pictured themselves as Lithuanians or Polacks. They hated them, it was mutual, and they never had the problem of wanting to leave. And like I said, German Jews, unfortunately, did have it, and French Jews, the more enlightened countries where people were much nicer, at least outwardly, civilized, they had that feeling, and they want to be that. There's a story, I forgot his name, it's famous, I think his name was something like Kahn. He was a Hamburg resident, a real loyal German citizen. He had been some high official. I don't remember, I read his biography. Totally secular, and when the Nazis came to power, he swore allegiance. He's a proud member, and they threw him out from the party. And he was very, very broken, depressed. And then they said they're going to deport him from Hamburg, and him and his wife committed suicide. They said life not in Hamburg is not a life worth living. To me, that was a horrendous. A Jew had become so alienated that he became part of something else, to the degree where he really couldn't live without it. He saw himself as more German and a Hamburg person than a Jew. I was thinking a lot about this, in the last few months over here. At Baruch Hashem, I was fortunate to grow up in America. I don't know where most of you came from, but thank God, life was extremely good, very comfortable, and tolerant, and we owe a lot to our hosts who gave us a chance. My parents came as refugees, and they were able to build a life and have children and so on. But the problem is always when things are good, certainly when things are good, we tend to become enmeshed and feeling that this is us, this is who we are. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to come dragging to Israel, to Mashiach, people that don't want to go. The Maral says, how come, it says if we would have gone into Memtet Sharet Tumah, we wouldn't have been Nigal, we would not have gone to Geulah. Yes, but there was a promise. So he says the promise was Geulah. Taking out, creating a new nation is not Geulah. Geulah means you have one item that's enmeshed in another item, we take it out. But he said if they would have gone one more step, they would have become Mitzrim, they would have become Egyptian. There was no promise that he would take Egypt and split it and make a new nation out of it. The promise was that the Bnei Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Hashem is reminding us that, you know what? This is not permanent. You're a guest, but you're not American. You're a Jew, you're Am Hashem, and Am Hashem travels. Unfortunately, we're in Golus, so we go different places, and we should be extremely grateful and respectful to the people that hosted us. But them and us are two different worlds. And it reminded us that it's not the same. Hopefully, this is the point of Geulah. Hopefully, this is where we move onwards. But I think, it's been awakening everywhere. We realized we're not at home anywhere. And more than that, as an Israeli nation, we're not at home with other nations either. UN doesn't think nicely of us. Just fine, we don't think nicely of them either. But the point is, we're not one of. We are Am Hashem. We belong to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's who we're tied to. B'ezrat Hashem, we should be zocha. Hopefully this was needed, and we should move on to the V'lakachti etchem li la'am ve'abeti etchem al ha'aretz v'nasati et yadi, and so on. B'ezrat Hashem b'meira v'yameinu. Okay.